Hello, welcome back to the Good Enough Mum business page at the start of 2019. And I'm back at work today. It's my first day back, and I thought I'd come on and do a live feed all about the new year and just checking out whether you've done any resolutions. Have you got any New Year's resolutions? And if so, how are you getting on? And how is your year beginning to shape up? Now we're into the first full week of January. And I really wanted to talk about it because after quite a few attempts at New Year resolutions, I now don't tend to set myself New Year's resolutions. And I've got several reasons for this. The first one is that I think actually January is a difficult time. Because of things like the weather, and so we can flog ourselves to death trying to get out jogging or something like that, and actually it's really not the weather for it. It's lovely if you do that, fantastic, but it is a lot easier perhaps if we have nicer weather, for example. And I think the sort of part of the thing to think about when we're thinking about New Year's resolutions is actually why we're doing them. And I think the problem is often New Year's resolutions tend to follow a period of excess at Christmas. So it might be that, perhaps you're doing something like dry January, which is a laudable objective. But I think it's also sort of quite interesting to ask why that is and why so many people do decide to go on diets or cut out the alcohol in January. And I think it's often connected with a feeling of guilt and of the excess of Christmas and a sort of desire to purge ourselves of what's gone perhaps not according to plan. Perhaps we feel that we've been self-indulgent over Christmas and it's time to pull ourselves together. And of course, I'm all for us looking after ourselves and having healthy bodies, but I think it's problematic when we're coming from a place of disliking ourselves and feeling guilty about ourselves and feeling that we have to beat ourselves up and get better. As I've said in previous blogs and live feeds, there's this quote I absolutely love that says, "We cannot hate ourselves into a version of ourselves that we love." And the problem is we can try and diet, we can try and cut out the alcohol, we can do all sorts of things, but it's coming from a place of disliking ourselves. And actually, I think the real thing is about loving ourselves, accepting who we are, loving who we are at the moment, and wanting to look after ourselves and wanting our bodies to be healthy, not because we dislike them, but because we love them. And there's a different energy to that. But I really like to think about what January is in the Northern Hemisphere. It's winter, and it's often a time where nature itself is really hibernating. You don't see a lot of growth going on in the depths of the cold winter months. And it's a time where there doesn't seem to be stuff going on the surface, but underneath the surface there is change about to happen. And I think if we can try and tap into that, that might help us. Because I think what tends to happen is we push ourselves so much at this time of year. And, it's a time when the nights are long. It's maybe a time for being cosy. It's maybe a time for cooking nourishing meals. It's maybe not a time to be thinking about salads and stripping off so that we can go do mad exercise. It's perhaps a time for reflection, and I think we put ourselves under a lot of pressure to change and to change now. And underneath that pressure to change now is actually that lack of self-acceptance, that lack of loving us for who we are. And I've had quite a long think about my own new year. And what I like to do now is, rather than trying to think about drastic measures to make myself different, what I'm trying to do is recognise that it's a process, and perhaps for the year, what would this process be for me? And I've decided for me this year, because it just seems to be coming up a lot for me, is that this year my word for the year is gratitude. And that's about, you know, seeing what I've got at the moment. It's not about questing to be different all the time. And yes, you know, I'm the same as everybody else. I could always think that I could do with losing a few pounds, you know, eating a little bit more healthily. But also what I'm trying to recognise in all of this is I have a beautiful body that does so much for me, so much that I take for granted, that I don't even think about, that helps me to sleep, that helps me to breathe, that helps me to digest my food, that gives me energy, that enables me to think, that enables me to love. My body is amazing, and that's what I'd like to be grateful for, rather than trying to push my body into something else. And so this year what I'm focusing on is actually, you know, what is here already. And whilst I may change, I may lose those few pounds if I concentrate on looking after my body and focus on acting healthily and bring in things that perhaps would benefit my body. But what I want to do is to be grateful for what I've already got. And it would be lovely if you'd like to join me on this journey. Thanks so much for watching this live feed. It's a little bit longer than I intended, but I hope that helps, and I look forward to interacting with you via Facebook. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.